Good evening. It's now 7 PM, and I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Plan Commission of the Village of Tinley Park to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gaskell?
Present.
Commissioner Gatto?
Present.
Commissioner Hamilton? Commissioner Manny?
Present.
Commissioner Merrick? Commissioner Shaw?
Present.
Commissioner Tibbetts?
Present.
Commissioner Truxell?
Here.
Chairman Gray? So I have Commissioner Shaw as acting chair for tonight.
Thank you, Lori. We do have a quorum. And moving on, any communications from staff this evening? None. We can move on to approval of the minutes of the September 15th, 2022 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Move Commissioner Manny.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Tibbetts, I'm sorry. Any questions, comments, corrections on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries, minutes are approved. We have a single item on the agenda this evening. Item number one, a public hearing, Chipotle, new construction, 7121 159th Street. Special use for a PUD, site plan, architectural approval, and plat of subdivision. I have the certificate of publication for the public hearing. Everything looks in order. And so with that, entertain a motion to open the public hearing for item number one.
So moved.
Motion Commissioner Gatto, second. Second Commissioner Manny. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is open. And we shall begin with staff presentation on this. I believe there was a workshop earlier, is that right?
Yes, there was on September 15th, our last meeting. So I will go through the proposal and try to hit on the important points. But for those of you that attended, you should be familiar largely with the history of the site and some of the basics. So this is in large commercial shopping area. Chipotle wishes to construct a restaurant location on the vacant lot next to Midas on 159th, east of 71st Court. And with that is an outlot that we are, thus with the proposal, requesting for a retroactive creation of a planned unit development to include that property as well as the Burger King property and the Floor and Decor Hobby Lobby building to the south. So overall, all this property that's highlighted in green is fairly large, over 511 square feet, was annexed in 1968, and of course is surrounded largely by heavily trafficked other commercial properties and development. So the property itself was originally, the large building to the south of our subject Chipotle site was built in 1971 for Kmart and had a renovation in 1998, and then very recently, last year, for the new Floor and Decor occupation of part of that space. So the other component is the Burger King building that is built in 2010. At the time that went through, the area was erroneously referred to as the Brementown Mall PUD. The approval allowed for the drive-through for Burger King, as well as some other concessions, reduced parking, minimum lot area, signage, and basically, we're here to look to try to bring all of this into conformance by having a correct new PUD. So as I just mentioned, it technically would be non-conforming because it, the development is to when it was developed before our first PUD ordinance and the incorrect reference to the PUD. So for zoning and land uses, as I said, it's, amongst a sea of other heavy commercial traffic. B2, Community Shopping District, is what it's currently in, and to the south and east and west, it's all more or less the same. Tinley Park Plaza PUD is to the west, and that has several outlots, anchors, that include the Burlington New location, the Amazon Fresh, et cetera. To the north, of course, is Orland Park with their BIZ district, similar to our B2 and B3. So for the proposed use, the applicant wishes to construct on that vacant lot a new freestanding Chipotle restaurant. So with that, we would be retroactively creating the new PUD for that site, the Burger King, and the Floor and Decor Hobby Lobby. There's some exceptions that will be to the zoning ordinance, which are more or less like relief from the zoning code that would be appropriate to the PUD's design and goals. So that would be the proposed drive-through pickup lane use, front yard parking, reduced parking stalls on site for 19 versus a minimum of 28 required, and sign face area on the north wall sign. So that was the first open item. We discussed this, and there were no objections from the commission at our last meeting. Secondly is the final plat of subdivision. So you can see here, it's lot 3 is basically the whole site with the exceptions of the outlots 1 and 2. And then for details on the final plat of subdivision. So staff had noted before that an ingress, egress, also known as cross-access extension of an easement needs to be provided running from 71st Court to the far east of our property. So going south of the subject Chipotle site as well as the Midas site. And the second is in order to help with the relief for the lack of required parking, there's 9 parking stalls that they would be putting, they'd be taking from the Floor and Decor site through means of an easement. So in the plat of subdivision that was with the packet, these things weren't reflected, but there are things that staff has asked for the applicant to work on providing. So on the screen here, you can see in the upper right, with the zoning submittal, there is architectural drawings as well as engineering drawings and exhibits. So that shows an exhibit where you could see the post-shade 9 spaces south of the drive aisle, and then the larger image kind of shows roughly where we would need the cross-access ingress easement extension. So that was regarding the second open item, and just to reiterate those 2 conditions. And lastly on this, earlier today, the applicant's team was able to provide staff with the revised plat. So we are in the process of looking at it to review, and they may need to provide some cleanup to be able to get it ready for a village board. But for tonight, you would just be voting to recommend on the previously submitted plat with our conditions that we've stated. So this is a site plan that again shows that cross parking down at the south. It's the in the site itself, it's the freestanding building with the drive-through pre-order pickup that wraps around in a counterclockwise direction. On the left image, you can see some updated detail that was included with the public hearing packet that shows more specifics on the work regarding they will be coordinating with IDOT to provide for access to cross to the west over 700th Court. So the site plan, another thing I wanted to mention is per the workshop's feedback, there was a comment to consider including a crosswalk to the south. So they've added that, but that would be subject to final engineering review. So that may require adjusting or even removing that. So you can see here, it just kind of leads from the south of the site, east of the trash enclosure, over to just east of where those off-site spots would be. Landscaping, nothing's changed here. It largely meets the code. There were a few waivers. This is a very tight site, and they've done their best to provide as much plantings as they can while keeping the plantings healthy and not overcrowding them. So staff is supportive of all of these, a buffer yard, foundational plantings, canopy trees per square footage, and interior parking lot deficiency. And that, again, some of these are just very minor deficiencies that staff supports. So the elevations are largely the same, except they tweak them to slightly better represent the gray stone that, gray brick veneer that they're providing. There's two colors, so it's the off-white, whitish color, and then this accent slate gray. The other difference is they've now depicted the swing gate that's helping protect the roof ladder access on the south of the building. Below is the trash enclosure, which does have a slightly different material. I can show the materials real quick to I don't think you saw them last time, but I don't know if Dado saw them or not. But, so this would be the majority of the side, and then this is the architectural accent. So where you would pick up the items that bump out would be that slate gray, and then trash enclosure would be this architectural CMU. So
Okay.
very close.
Is this similar, has this been used on other Chipotles around? It looks familiar. It just looks,
I don't have that.
it's very nice.
Check.
That's nice.
And they provided other samples here, as you can see, for the gate, just also complementary color for PVC. So. And dark gray canopy as well. So here are the elevations that you can see going around the building, also updated. The physical samples, as I mentioned, the rest of the commissioners here had a look at them at the workshop, and generally we're supportive. We feel that the physical samples all appear to complement each other. And then moving on to signage, no changes here. The feedback from the workshop is that the commission and staff were supportive of the north wall sign. It is an exception because it is slightly larger than the requirement for meeting the maximum sign size area. So it's 34 feet. We base it on the linear frontage. So up there on the top, you can see what the proposed sign is, and then on the bottom is the ground sign that they're proposing to do by right. So for parking, there was some discrepancy in the seat count, but staff has remained to go with the architectural site plan versus the Chipotle exhibit that provides a typical layout. So the site plan that the applicant's providing does have a higher number of seats, so we are going by this for the parking determination. So it's 59 total seats, 43 indoor, 16 outdoor. This is the same as before. So with those calculations of 1 per 3 seats and 1 per employee, that would mean that the proposal, and 8 employees, 1 per employee, that the 19 spaces on site does not meet code, 28 are required. So thus they're providing 9 off-site. The feedback from the workshop is that this was generally appropriate. And then lastly here for the features of lighting, No changes here. It was just depicted with the typical entry sconces that would flank the entry of the building, and then your standard downcast site LED lighting. Meets our maximum foot candles and mounting height requirements. So that concludes my staff presentation. I've got the petitioner here, Richard Silverman, to help answer any questions.
Hi there. I don't know if there's going to be any questions here, but may as well swear you in. Can you raise your hand? Do you swear that testimony you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. I should have had you state your name for the record.
Richard Silverman.
Good to talk to you tonight, Richard.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I guess we can, well, before the commissioners have any questions, anything you'd like to say?
Just want to introduce ourselves. My name is Richard Silverman on behalf of MJK Real Estate. We're a third-generation development company out of Northfield, Illinois. We're a preferred developer for Chipotle. This would be our 15th Chipotle in our third state. So happy to answer any questions you may have regarding Chipotle and their pickup window and the design of the building.
All right, well, we can hop to it down here on the end.
All my questions were answered at the workshop, and everything still looks in line, so no questions for me at this point. It's a beautiful building, nice addition to the village.
All right.
Nothing from me.
All right, sounds good. Anything down at the far end there?
Nothing.
Nothing for me. It looks great.
Thank you.
I concur, it looks great, and, you know, my comments were responded last week, or at the workshop.
Great. Well, they're just making it too easy on you. We need to make this tough here.
People like Chipotle, so they tend to go well.
Well, it's a nice design.
It does look impressive, and I recognize that there are some challenges with the site. So, looks like you guys went through a lot of work on it.
We wish the site was a tad bit bigger, but we're going to make it work, and staff's been wonderful to work with from the start regarding the design of the building, the way they wanted it to look, and the way the site was configured. So it's very helpful to sort those questions out before we even make it to this point, just to make sure that staff and the developer and the tenant Chipotle are all on the same page going into the project.
It's great. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the workshop, but I did read through the minutes, and frankly, I don't have any additional questions from what was discussed there or anything that came up tonight. I just, before we move on out of the public hearing, I just want to understand something you said earlier about a new plat was delivered, and are we looking at a motion that would be conditioned on the review of the new plat, or is that necessary? Just want to make sure I understand.
Yes, so because what was in the packet was the plat with the May date, so the motion, as I have up here on the screen, does have these conditions for these easements.
Okay,
So
all
we're
right.
working with them right now to be able to actually have those easements on the plat.
And so it's subject to that review and engineering as typical. All right,
And whoever ends up reading that one can just reference the conditions on the slide and in the staff report, so you don't have to read that whole last condition there. But
all right.
yes,
So-
we have it conditioned appropriately. So
Great.
we'll give it a five vote.
All right, so if there are no further questions or comments from the commissioners, as for questions or comments from the public, there are none. And so I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made.
Motion Commissioner Gaskell, second.
Second.
Second Commissioner Truxell. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is closed. You don't have to stand up the whole time. You can have a seat. You're welcome to, though. I just thought you might not be comfortable. Okay, so I think we're familiar with the special use standards, but by all means, you're welcome to highlight some or summarize. It's all in the packet, and we've been through them. But if there's anything you want to highlight for the commission?
So we're noting in here, that it's a PUD along with the exceptions, that it's safe for the public. It allows for more use of the property as opposed to it being a vacant lot. And otherwise, the PUD is mostly existing and developed, similar to other properties. With that, appropriate type of development surrounding as well. Overall, it's supportive standards that we have. Those are the first three that are on the screen, and then here's the others, that, again, note, the standards for having adequate utilities and access. They are managing all their stormwater on site, so they've worked with the village to be able to keep it functional and appropriate to the PUD. The layout allows for safe circulation, even for deliveries. They'll be scheduled off hours to not conflict with operations. They've indicated they'll meet all other village code requirements, and from an economic development perspective, this is an obvious win because it converts it from an unused parking lot to a popular restaurant use to help benefit the community as a whole, with sales expected to increase. That concludes the standards. Nothing for the site plan, for the special use. I've also got the site plan architectural. These are the summaries, the A through J, and the different components, and I've included in the staff report the full explanation of those. And then that concludes the standards. I've got the motions up on screen.
Okay, before we entertain the motion, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on it. As I understand, this came up probably during the petition review that there was not a formal PUD on this, right? I don't want to hold this up, but I'm just curious to hear about that maybe another time, because it does sound interesting.
I can do a SparkNotes version of it if you want, and it came up with Tinley Plaza as well, the Amazon. So that was another one that we did the same thing for and kind of retroactively put it on there. For years, all the staff reports I can see just said, could not find the ordinance. And since 1978, and basically what happened in 1978 is when our kind of current zoning ordinance was written. And when they did a new zoning map, new zoning districts, they kind of just put PUD on a bunch of things, even though it wasn't really a PUD. It usually meant there was some kind of conditions attached to it, but it wasn't a PUD. And then from 1978 till I got here, we just kind of said, yeah, it's a PUD and we can't find the ordinance. So I just did too much research and then found out a bunch of them didn't have PUDs. But we functioned that way for a long time, so we're having to do this kind of retroactive placement of the PUD back on it, just to clean it up, make it actually.
So am I clear that well, actually, I'm not clear, so that's what I'm asking. Is what we would be recommending approval for tonight applicable to the entire development or just Chipotle?
The only thing that's changing is the Chipotle site, but the PUD is applicable to that entire property. It's just taking all the stuff that was
Yeah.
kind of erroneously approved before and making it legitimate now, so the Burger King.
So we don't go through a separate process and then
Yeah.
delay this. All
So
right, just makes
I-
sense.
Yeah,
Ricky kind of
highlighted.
walked into that, and we kind of had to guide him into knowing he had to actually request this for the overall site. So we appreciate him working with the current ownership group too to kind of make that work and get everything cleaned up.
Yeah, I similar to the sunroom thing a few weeks back, approaching it not just for that single petitioner, but holistically. I think that there's a lot of value in doing that. There's a lot of efficiency in that.
Hopefully,
just doing
future
that.
planners will appreciate not having to dig through 50 years of files to
Yeah.
figure it out.
All right. So without further ado, I would entertain the first motion. Anybody feel like doing some reading?
And again, you can just reference the conditions as noted on the slide.
Anybody want to make a motion
take it.
for the
I'll-
PUD?
I'll take it. I make a motion to recommend that the village board approve a special use for a planned unit development, Tinley Park Shopping Plaza, in accordance with the listed plans, findings of fact, and list of exceptions as noted in the October 6, 2022 staff report to retroactively place a PUD over the property and permit construction of a Chipotle Mexican grill on property located at 7061 through 7135 159th Street, subject to the conditions as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Motion Commissioner Truxell, second Commissioner Gatto. We get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Gatto.
Yes.
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Tibbetts.
Yes.
Commissioner Truxell.
Yes.
Acting Chair Shaw.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, so can I entertain a motion to, on the plat?
I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant approval to the petitioner Richard Silverman on behalf of MJK Real Estate Holding Company, LLC, final plat approval for the Tinley Park Shopping Plaza subdivision dated May 26, 2022, subject to the following conditions referenced in the staff report.
Motion Commissioner Gaskell, second.
Second.
Second Commissioner Tibbetts. Roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Gatto.
Yes.
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Tibbetts.
Yes.
Commissioner Truxell.
Yes.
Acting Chair Shaw.
Yes. And that motion carries as well. All right. Was it just the two, or we had a third? Yeah, I thought we had. Okay. All right. Anybody else want to make a motion for site plan and architectural approval?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the petitioner Richard Silverman on behalf of MJK Real Estate Holding Company LLC final site plan and architectural approval to the permit the construction of a Chipotle Mexican Grill restaurant at 7121 159th Street in the B2 Community Shopping Zoning District in accordance with the plan submitted as referenced in the October 6, 2022 staff report and subject to the below conditions in staff report.
Motion Commissioner Gatto, second. Second Commissioner Manny. Roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Gatto.
Yes.
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Tibbetts.
Yes.
Commissioner Truxell.
Yes.
Acting Chair Shaw.
Yes. And that motion carries as well. All right, that was the last one, right?
Yes.
All right, and this was unanimous on all three, which is always a good sign. It'll go to the October 18th Village Board meeting. Is this for first reading, or is that for approval at the Village Board meeting?
It'll be first reading and approval.
Okay.
So typically, a PUD wouldn't be combined, but because this is an existing unique situation, we're not really approving anything new
Okay,
like that. We're going to combine them.
so since you identified this, you got to name the PUD, right? You didn't want to name it Dan or something?
What did we end up naming it? Just Tinley Park?
Tinley Park
Plaza?
Shopping Center, I
Yes.
think.
I think that's what was on the plat, and we just went with it. Could
Okay.
have been named Ricky Silverman PUD, but
Well,
passed up an opportunity.
you could charge Chipotle for naming rights. There you go. All right. All right, so I think that concludes for you tonight. Appreciate it very much. These guys will be in touch with you for the next steps. So moving on, we will receive comments from the public. Seeing and hearing none, we can move on to go to the order.
Me and Lori got back from the APA conference, the Illinois conference, so we went to a lot of different sessions there, had a good time, learned a lot of stuff. It was in the old post office in Chicago, which was pretty cool, so I get a chance to even stop in there on the first floor. They have kind of like a food court and stuff in there now, and it's pretty cool to see. They kept a lot of the history of that alive, so the windows are original to it. There's a lot of pictures of kind of how they found it in the inside and kind of some of the unique things they found. A lot of little hidden details going on the tour.
Have they redeveloped the entire building?
Yes, I believe it is, and it's almost fully occupied.
Wow.
It's pretty high up there, and the rooftop is super cool. So it's like 4 football fields of like a green roof that has like a track around it, basketball courts, and if you're a tenant in there, it just comes with what you pay for your lease.
You
So-
could rent it for a
Yeah, I was
price.
shooting some hoops up there in between sessions, so.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can rent it for a lot of money, right? I don't know what it was, but it was.
It's a lot of money.
It was a lot. So that was cool. We learned a lot there. Also mentioning the APA, so we did finalize the APA Illinois Plan Commission training here. So that'll be November 3rd, which is a normal meeting day. It'll be start at 7 o'clock, same normal meeting time. Should take about 2 to 2.5 hours. It is kind of what you guys will make it, so they can just kind of run through stuff. But if you guys have questions, if you have concerns, if you want to know what you should be asking, what you shouldn't be, come here with all your questions. They'll have a pretty experienced team, including a land use attorney. So if you have legal questions, we'll even have an attorney here. So excited to have that. For those of you that have been on here for a while, it might just be a refresher, and for those of you that are new, again, there's not any bad questions. We also invited the trustees. It's open to the public, so anybody that's interested, and just kind of seeing process, and maybe we're doing everything wrong, I don't think so, but we'll just kind of learn process and procedure and differences between public meetings and public hearings, and what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, what you should be asking, what gets a little hairy, how to deal with contentious meetings, which we haven't had in a while, but I definitely know Commissioner Manny and Shaw have been through some in the past, and how you deal with those separate from maybe a meeting like you did today. So just a lot of different things we'll kind of go through with you guys. So I'm excited to have that lined up, and thanks for Jarrell to I had been working on it, but it took him to kind of get it over the finish line and get it scheduled and coordinated. And the conference really helped too, because they couldn't avoid me. And we went and got it finished at the conference, made sure we had the right people here to do the training. Besides that, the board approved the Vote subdivision, the Bentonhausen Auto Group special use for the garage on Oak Park Avenue, and then the Trinity,
St. Jude.
St. Julie, sorry, St. Julie ground sign. So all those were approved and moved on. For projects that are currently under construction, Loyola is flying, so that's, I think, setting a construction record out there. There's probably 50 guys out there right now still doing construction. They're moving in furniture. There's not even all the walls up, so they are moving at a rapid pace. Holiday Inn, which took a little longer than what they wanted just due to supply chain issues, but that is coming to a close now. So they're looking at a November 3rd opening. So we can't attend that because we have APA Illinois Plan Commission training, but I think they're doing a ribbon cutting and opening on November 3rd. Smoothie King and Starbucks on Harlem, those two should be open within the next month. They both have, Smoothie King struggling on getting one material on the exterior of their building, just like the stonework on the bottom of it. But otherwise, it's actually mostly complete besides asphalt and kind of the brick going on. So that should open as soon as they have access to that material. And Starbucks is actually ready to open today, but they don't have power or gas, which is kind of what's holding that up. So as soon as they can get IDOT and NICOR aligned, I think, that should open up shortly, within a couple weeks. So That's all I have.
So, on that note, well, the Loyola team, that sounds fantastic that they're moving along efficiently. I think maybe you should send them south to the
109
residences, Magnuson Apartments.
I was thinking the same thing. I was gonna bring that up.
We'll leave that
Send
one
them as a
aside.
reference
Yeah.
to the vacation residents.
But you mentioned some ribbon cuttings for these projects, and it just made me think, if there's a communications out there for these, it just kind of, I've been to a few, and it kind of made me think, I don't know about any of the other commissioners, but, you know, we see these projects up here sometimes, and it's kind of refreshing and satisfying to go, like, see the ribbon cutting. So I don't know if there's a mechanism or a mailing list that
I
you guys
just
could.
got added to it.
Oh, really?
so,
Okay.
I will make sure you guys,
Okay.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, but I would assume if any of you guys are ever available, you know, during the day or something when these ribbon cuttings
And there may
happen.
be ones that you end up getting that never, are just businesses opening, but
Oh,
that's
sure.
perfectly fine too. You guys are kind of a representative appointed group that has that interest in just businesses in general and
Yeah.
development, so.
I mean, for me, like I said, even to your point, if it's something that doesn't require coming through the Plan Commission or Zoning Board of Appeals, and it's still nice, I think, for me, it helps just have context and awareness of what's going on in the town, you know? When we see something happening here and then we're looking at a different case, a lot of times it's good to have that point of reference.
Yep,
So,
I will get in contact. I think it's marketing that mainly coordinates that, and I can have you guys all added to the, I think it's just an email blast they send out.
Fantastic.
I'll add you to that.
So anything else from you guys over there? Great. Any comments from commissioners?
No.
All right, well, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Move Commissioner Manny, second Commissioner Gaskell, all in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.